Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Slow Flowers Show. I'm Deborah Prinzing, and today I am so excited to welcome my friend Jayson Munn of Jayson Munn Design. Hello, Jayson.
Hi, Deborah. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so happy that we're doing this. We are not together because you're in Vermont and I'm in Washington State, but we've talked about having you on the podcast for a while. So thank you for saying yes.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, it's only fair because you've hosted me when I've come to Vermont. So this is my my virtual host. Jayson, I think we met through Holly Chapple at one of the early Flowerstocks. You were on the staff or on the team that was assisting Holly, as I recall, even before COVID, right?
Yeah, that's true. We met during Flowerstock, one of the very first ones, I think.
Yeah. I remember you were just so welcoming, and like you also knew the lay of the land, everything that was going on. Did you get involved in that because you're a member of Chapple Designers or a former member of Chapple Designers?
I am a current member, and what happened is we actually had Holly come to Vermont to teach a program at Green Mountain Floral Supply, and we fell in love instantly. And the next thing you know, I was in London helping to facilitate a workshop there. And then she asked me to come help at Flowerstock. And I said yes. And actually, I'll be returning to Flowerstock this year to help facilitate the program. So.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I hope I can make it. I've come out a couple of times to do writing workshops, and I've really enjoyed that. But that's how we got to have a little more time together, because you do all the programming. Tell me if I'm characterizing this correctly, but the floral workshop programming for Green Mountain in Burlington, Vermont, and you've invited me to present a couple times at that annual wonderful event that happens early in the year.
Yeah, so I've been working with Green Mountain Floral Supply for about 10 years, 10 years. And I work with the team to facilitate the annual spring show, which often involves bringing in different designers or farmers or florists to come and share their knowledge in an educational workshop situations.
Mm-hmm. I want to just mention to people that they may have heard an earlier podcast episode with Tom Jennings of Green Mountain Floral Supply, which I think was in 2019. And I'll share a link to that in the show notes just so people can kind of get a little bit of a sense of what's happening in Vermont. But we're really going to hear about it from a designer's point of view. And so your work is sort of integrated in both coaching and styling and design and education. So talk a little bit about give us a snapshot, I guess, of Jayson Munn Design right now.
Well, actually right now, we are taking a little bit of a sabbatical from wedding work, which after about 30 years of going really hard with that, we decided we needed a little bit of break, or I needed a break. So we've been focusing a bit more on educational opportunities, as well as I've started sort of sharing flowers publicly. So one of the things I've been doing is what I'm calling floral art in the park. So I've been setting up wild arrangements out in the middle of the park for people to view and have a look at.
Wow. In Burlington.
Yeah, right out in front of my house, actually. So
wow.
Do it about once a month, collecting different plants and stuff from farmers in the woods and that type of thing, and then just doing a giant display for people to enjoy. And it's been really interesting to have the time to do that, to create, but also to share with the public.
I've been to your house once. It was in the winter. It wasn't nighttime, but I do recall that your front porch faces kind of a promenade where there's a lot of walkers. Is that sort of how these passersby get to see your installations?
Yeah, I mean, we have a pretty extensive gardens around the house, and obviously lots and lots of plants on the front porch that does face a parade ground. So we have, I have people walking by every day, like asking questions and touching things and taking pictures and all of that. And so I'm always happy to share flowers with people and talk about them.
Wow, I love that. I love that. Well, we've had a lot of good conversations about your commitment to locally grown flowers, but what are you in, zone 4? I mean, you're in a tough growing area, right?
Yeah, it's slowly changing. So
Yeah.
I think it's zone 4, maybe zone 5, maybe
Mm-hmm.
3. It really depends. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge to get locally grown things year round. But there is a season, and that season is slowly being extended on each end. So spring is starting a little earlier, fall is ending a little bit later, and there are still lots of things that you can forage and also get from farmers. It's just more like sticks and berries and cones and things like red twig dogwood.
Yeah. But you have to be a gardener yourself to appreciate and like visually see the potential of a design element that might be overlooked by somebody who isn't a gardener. So I think your whole life has been rooted in the garden from growing up with a gardener, right?
Yeah, my grandmother was an avid gardener. So was my mother. So very early on, we had a horseshoe-shaped garden, which apparently was the best shape you could possibly have from a garden because you could tend to it on all sides.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and so my mother gave me a little space in that garden, which I quickly outgrew and insisted that I have my own gardens. And so I started creating those around the house and in the woods and that type of thing.
Wow. From a young age.
From a very, very young age.
Wow. Yeah. So how did you go from that into floral design? And I can't really believe that you've been designing weddings for 30 years. So fill in that gap.
I mean, I started out, we grew up in a very rural area in Vermont. And so we were surrounded by cornfields and beaver dams and streams and all of that stuff. And my mother would just basically kick me out of the house in the morning and say, go outside and play. And so I was just completely enthralled and amazed with the natural world and my surroundings. Mm-hmm. And so, oftentimes I think of it as plants were really my friends. And I would collect them, I would play with them, I would arrange with them. I would bring, I think, one of the stories I often tell is that while most kids have a lemonade stand growing up, I had a bouquet stand. I think around the age of 6 or 7. I got the bright idea that I was going to sell bouquets on a dirt road with no traffic. So, yeah, I can remember collecting like hairy vetch, daisies, black-eyed Susans, chicory, all sort of the things that grew along the roadside or grew, in the woods, and putting together tiny little bouquets. And I unfortunately didn't sell any, but
the budding entrepreneur at age 6.
So I've been doing it, very, very long time. I mean, I would collect trillium in the forest, which I won't do anymore. Bring to my mother every Mother's Day. We have tons of pictures of arrangements that I would make growing up for different occasions. So if it was somebody's birthday or it was Father's Day, I would always go out and collect things and create arrangements for my family.
Did you think of yourself as a florist or a floral designer, or did you think of yourself more as like a naturalist or just a garden practitioner? I mean, how did you envision that? Did you know that there were people who were professional floral designers?
No, I didn't. So, I mean, it really was just sort of, I don't know if it was nature or nurture, but, being forced out into the wild and playing with all of these things. I mean, I was just so fascinated with everything. That I don't think I really knew about floral design until the days of Martha Stewart. And then I was like, hey, wait a minute, this is what I'm doing.
What was your first paying floral gig? Do you remember?
Yes. My first paying floral gig was in Boston, Massachusetts. And I worked for a really, really old school florist. And that is the type that would have fruit baskets all done up, red roses galore, just very old school. And I think at the time, the name is escaping me, but it was one of the oldest florists in Boston.
Yeah.
It's closed. But I was doing that to make extra money during my college years, and then I just stuck with it. So I
Wow.
continued to work for a bunch of different florists in the Boston area. Dutch Flower Garden was one of them at the time, and they were sort of like the two big floral operations.
Well, that's so amazing. And then so you've learned how to like the as you said, old school, like how to wire roses and how to tape and all these sort of mechanics that I suppose served you well when you were banging out a lot of weddings.
Yeah.
But your aesthetic has really, it's so personal. It does not look like it's a conventional, traditional floral look. And I'm going to put up your Instagram account just so I can show people a little bit about some of the work. This is just a mix of your feed, but it's a combination of being gaga for plants that you grow and then showing some of your design work. There's a real garden inspired vibe and also kind of a nature note, like you're putting in pods and seed heads and grasses and things that maybe don't live in traditional floristry. They're kind of your interpretation of that moment in time.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, we are, from being fascinated with it as a child, collecting all of those things. I've always used it in my own personal work. And over the years, it's actually become a little bit more desirable, I think, for clients is to, slow flowers for me were always slow when I was growing up, right? It was just like whatever was available, whatever was out there. And
I love that. I mean, this is a good example. I don't know if you can see this on the screen. This beautiful bouquet that is a hand-tied natural cascade, and it's just mostly foliage with a little bit of clematis and a little bit of amaranth.
Yeah.
But mostly straight from the garden. I love that you said that. Like you've always been slow. I don't mean like you don't design slowly, but your intentionality is start local because that's how you taught yourself to be a designer.
Yeah, we didn't. I mean, there weren't flower shops in town, that type of thing. I didn't go purchase anything whenever I was making something. So it was always whatever was around me, whatever was being grown by my mother, whatever was growing in the field, we would incorporate in our designs. And we do a lot of that still. I mean, I'm very, slow flowers, local flowers, regional flowers are very important to me and to my work. And I incorporate them as often in as many ways as I can.
Yeah, and I feel like you have had an influence, you and other florists have had an influence on asking Green Mountain Floral Supply to source from more local farms. And it's hard for wholesalers to do that. It's not as easy as just getting boxes shipped in from Holland. So how have you seen that change, that arc change over the last maybe 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think that, the wholesaler is aware that this is something that clients and people desire. And you're right, there is a challenge to go from farming flowers to wholesaling farmed flowers. And most of that comes with the size, the length, the sturdiness of the item, all of that type of thing.
Yeah, stage of harvest, all those things. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's been a lot of improvement by a lot of farmers in that area. And so Tom does work with a few specific ones and definitely encourages us as designers to go shop local, like just go to the farm and get what you need. And then we supplement with things from the wholesaler as we.
Yeah, I feel like you've been a real bridge in that conversation. When I came out last year, it was your suggestion that we have a roundtable discussion with farmer florists and just kind of learn from each other in the Vermont area. And I was there were about a dozen people there. I thought it was really a great introduction to help me see what the issues are. And, I think selling to a wholesaler is a unique niche for some flower farmers. Some don't want to do it. Others sort of say, wow, wouldn't it be great to sell my entire harvest to one outlet? There's a benefit with that. So, and it's not for everybody, but I feel like those conversations are still happening.
Absolutely.
So when clients come, I know you're taking a hiatus from weddings, and everyone wants to know how you do that. I mean, you have to kind of figure out how to keep supporting yourself during the year off. But in general, your website is beautiful. Your aesthetic is so beautiful, and I think in the area you are known for weddings. So are you still getting a lot of word of mouth referrals, or how are people finding you?
Most is word of mouth. I don't do a ton of marketing. I don't really put myself out there that much. So I guess I'm resting on my laurels a little bit.
Well, the work should, the work should speak for itself, but also I'm assuming there are people who get referrals from past clients or people who've been in wedding parties.
Yeah, because a typical couple is in the range of, say, 28 to 35, and they have siblings and cousins and all that type of thing. And
people in the wedding party.
Right. And it's a small knit community. I mean, Vermont's not that big. So if you do a wedding in Shelburne, Vermont, and it goes really well, 40 people know that it went really well. And so
yeah. And it's a college town. So there's people who want to come back, maybe when they're, planning their wedding 10 years after graduation, they want to come back to the area because it's so beautiful. Yeah. So you have a bit of a destination niche too. I guess that's where I'm going with that.
Yeah. It's amazing actually how many clients I've had over the years who met in college here in Vermont, moved, went on, started their work life, whatever it is, and then come back and have their wedding here for that reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I just want to say, we didn't really finish the conversation, but if you went away to Boston for college, at some point you came back, and how did that happen? Like, did you were you called back to the region? I mean, sure, it's country versus city, right?
Yeah, it's definitely country versus city. And when I left when I was 18, I was like, I'm never coming back to Vermont. Like, it has nothing for me.
Goodbye.
Done. And then I spent, I think, about 7 years in Boston through college, and then a couple of years working in public relations, some flower stuff after that. And one day I just called my mom and said, I want to come home. Come get me. And so I think that was at the age of maybe 26 or 27. And so I was here in Vermont, but then also I spent a lot of time in Walpole, New Hampshire. And that is where I opened up my first flower studio. And eventually I opened up a flower shop at Burdick Chocolates. It was a lovely restaurant, chocolatier. So I had a little corner where I would make bouquets, and I did all their decor, decorations for
how cool
stores. And
so you had your retail chapter as well.
Yes, I've had many chapters.
It's relatable. It's like, okay, done that. Now I know how to work in that world. But
yeah, and I mean, some days I'm like, oh, maybe I'll open a retail shop again. So we'll see.
I'd love to come hang out at that retail shop. I love it. Well, you said that you were going to do a little design demo, so I'd love that. I'm so grateful that I didn't do this interview in, March when I visited you last year, because there would not be a lot to harvest from the garden. So yeah. So if you have a second to set up, we'll just hit pause here and wait for you, and we'll get to learn a little bit about what you're going to design. Okay. Yeah.
We'll see you in a few.
Okay. Okay. So Jayson, I'm excited to see what you're going to design. Tell me a little bit about your palette, and is this going to be like a garden centerpiece?
Well, I think I'm going to stick with some of my favorite foliages and flowers that I've been using for a number of years. And hopefully some people can see some things in a different way.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my greenery. I went out this morning to my raspberry patch and picked a bunch of raspberry branches. So, as always,
Is this the thornless raspberry? I mean, you're not having trouble.
No, actually, this isn't the thornless one.
Uh-oh.
But some growers around here do have that, and it's absolutely amazing to work with.
So clearly your thumbs are durable.
Yes. After 30 years of floral design, they tend to hold up pretty well.
And I can definitely see you're comfortable with the knife.
I am, yes. So I learned with a knife, and I'm very comfortable with it. So this is a raspberry foliage. Another foliage that I tend to use a lot, that can be surprising, is actually lettuce. So I let my lettuce bolt so that it gets really nice, long, tall stems.
Oh my God, this is like right out of your vegetable patch.
This is, yeah. And so we're going to go ahead and add some romaine to the arrangement.
I mean, the way people react must be crazy. Like,
I don't think they even notice it.
Yeah.
You know, they're kind of like because they haven't seen it that way, so they're not really sure what it is.
Yeah, but it's makes sense because you see lettuce sold in with the roots on it, so it can draw up water.
Absolutely. And you know, the key is to let it get long. If you let it go into bloom, then you can actually use the delicate sort of blooms as well into your designs. Holds up surprisingly well. Another one of my favorites that I've been using since we grew up with an asparagus patch is asparagus green. This is a really feathery green that holds up super well in and out of water. Once had a installation on I guess a 90-degree day it was, and I used asparagus fern, and there was no change to it throughout the day. So it's very fluffy.
Yeah, I remember seeing an asparagus hedge at Chanticleer down in the Philadelphia area, Botanical Garden. I could not believe how gorgeous it was.
Yeah,
because it's a perennial, right?
Right. Yep. It actually grows wild up here in Vermont on the side of the roads. The next green I'm going to use, this is a really beautiful Japanese painted fern. This grows in my little fern garden outside of my house, but just will give us a really nice arc.
Has a little bit of purple plum touch to it too, right?
It does, yeah. Sometimes a little bit of pink as well.
I need to grow that.
It's so beautiful. Well, I thought I had 3 of them, but it appears I only have 2. So, another one of my favorite flowers that I like to use is actually begonia. And I sort of was thinking about this. I was like, why do we not have growers that grow this like super long so that people can use it? It's a really beautiful flower. It looks a lot like roses. Also, holds up really well. Like I cut this morning. I think it's almost 90 degrees, and it hasn't been in water, and there's been no change whatsoever.
Wow.
I also like it because it tends to have a beautiful arc or flow to it. I'm going to go ahead and pop that down here on the side.
When you think about how people propagate a plant like a begonia, they do take cuttings, and they're rooted cuttings, right?
Yeah.
So another thing kind of like the lettuce, like it's happy in water and will surprisingly last.
Yes, exactly. And I have this other little begonia here.
Oh, that color is beautiful.
Super sweet. Let's see if I can get that in there. And so I think over the years, I've just tested a product that you might not necessarily expect to find in arrangements. So begonias, geraniums, different fern leaves, that type of thing. So oftentimes at home, I'll have a bunch of little vases with things just hanging out. to see if they actually hold up. And these all do really, really well.
So those are the pelargonium tender or summer geraniums that people buy at the garden center.
Yeah, so this is Americana in salmon is the color. And you can just, pick them off the plant and stick them into your arrangements. So, let's see. Another one of my favorites, of course, which I think I may have mentioned earlier, is Black-Eyed Susan. This is really coming on full force this time of year. I don't know what I'm doing because I can't see it. So
yeah, I know. It's always hard to teach or lecture with the arrangement away from you, but you're doing beautiful.
I think I want to move to the front, but
you're allowed. You can come around.
Okay, see how it looks. And just reel back to the raspberry plant. One of the things that I discovered is that if you pick raspberries that have fruit on it, the fruit will actually continue to ripen. So here's just a little bit of raspberry plant with some fruit on it. We do like to incorporate fruit and pods and that type of thing whenever possible.
I love it.
I once sent someone a bouquet of just raspberries and and they were eating them for like 2 weeks. So it was really fascinating.
Because they kept ripening on the arrangement.
Right. Yeah. So some of these other flowers that I didn't collect this morning actually come from a new farmer florist, which is Sparrowhawk Farm. They're located in Charlotte, Vermont.
Okay.
And she sells these lovely little bouquets at the co-op, but also does, wholesale orders. So we have a beautiful zinnia here from her. Phoebe is her name. Which was sort of like the one in my ear.
The stems are really long.
Yeah, she does a really beautiful job with these.
Isn't Charlotte the town you live in?
No, I live in Colchester.
So I knew it started with a C. Okay.
Yeah, that's a C. So Charlotte is a little bit south of here on Route 7.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. It's just some great cosmos here.
So you're always hunting out new sources. Like,
Yes.
Did you just stalk her, or how did you even find what she was doing?
Well, what happened is oftentimes when I do weddings, I will move my studio to an area that's closer to the venue in order to service it. And so I have, over the past couple of years, I have rented a few different flower farms to work out of. Because they have the flowers, they have the coolers, they have the space, and oftentimes their workload is wrapped up at a reasonable point in time. So I think you probably know Liz at Maple Flower Farm, her place. But so I had rented Unity Farm, which I think you're familiar with as well, to do my wreath workshops and also for wedding. And Kathy has gone on a bit of a sabbatical herself, so she there's a new farmer working that land, and that's Sparrowhawk Farm.
Got it. Oh, I love it. It's a good community.
Some beautiful echinacea in here, some scabiosa. Trying to get a little more of an angle.
I think it's brilliant that you're really seeking out these professional relationships and friendships with the growers, because it benefits them to have a florist in their circles too, who can advise them on varieties. And
sure, yeah. I mean, I'm asked often, what should I grow? What should I grow? And
what do you say?
Everything. I think that we may have touched on this earlier, but more and more of clients who are coming to me and coming to other florists in the area are requesting that their flowers be local or locally sourced or locally grown or regionally even.
Yeah.
So I've really been
excited about that change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Vermont, like people want Vermont menus, and they want
farm
Vermont aesthetic.
Exactly. So that's been pretty good. I have some explosion grass here, which is kind of just fun stuff to work with.
Yeah, perfect. I love it.
Fill in my middle a little bit because I'm not sure what this looks like, but I may come around to the other side.
It's it's sort of like the quintessential peak of summer bouquet.
Yes, exactly. So you got zinnias, you have cosmos, you have all the grasses. Looks like we got
Well, and there used to be this sort of rule, like don't put pink and yellow together, but obviously
Really?
you've got multiple shades in the pink range that are warm, and they look really they look great with that golden rudbeckia.
Yeah, I think this is like queen lime zinnia here. So, you know, we got a little hot pink in the center. We have some variation, some peach, some yellow, some lime in there. So,
what do you have in your hand there? Is that oregano or something?
this is oregano. Yeah, I grabbed it out of the garden this morning. So I'm just going to have a peek here. It looks okay to me. A little heavy on this side in the greenery, but I think I'm going to leave it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not going for symmetry, are you?
Not really, no. So I'm going to add a little more oregano down low. Really nice, beautiful texture.
Oh, yeah, but it smells good too.
And it does, yes.
Well, save some for your kitchen table.
Well, this will be mine at the end. All right, let me just put in a couple little flyers. These are chives of some sort. And I think that's about it.
It's so beautiful, Jayson. But my takeaway from watching you is that use edibles,
Yes.
lettuces and berries. Use what are considered summer hanging basket plants like the begonias and the geraniums, and then harvest things straight from the garden like the ferns and the asparagus.
Yeah, there's a combination, a little bit of everything.
That's great. What a wonderful July morning to spend with you. I know it's almost afternoon your time, but so beautiful. Anything you want to add before we wrap up?
I just would like to, encourage everyone to continue to buy locally and share that knowledge with your clients and your friends and family. So
I love it. We're going to share some photos that you're going to send to me. I hope you send me a few of your front porch garden displays if you have anything, because it'd be fun for people to see that in the show notes at stillflowerspodcast.com. And Jayson, thank you so much. This has really been long awaited, and we will do it again. But I'm excited that we got to record this today, and I'll see you in person, maybe at Flowerstock. I don't know.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Bye.